Curtis, you've been part of some pretty dramatic moments in a Derbyshire in your years here. I just wonder how highly you rank that comeback at Port Vale on Tuesday.
It was, I think it was massive. I think the feeling of, listen, I believe we should have been out of sight in the game with the chances we created, but we didn't see ourselves in that position. And then they obviously get their goal quite direct, got the second ball and then took their chance really well. And from there it was, the gamesmanship of someone gets cramp, then the next person's got an injury, and I don't blame them for it at all. Ultimately they were doing all they could to hang on to it, but we kept turning the screw. It shows that we've got a different mentality now. Before we might have let that fade away by forcing passes and giving the ball away and getting frustrated and maybe fouling people, but we kept going. And yeah, we've popped up with the first moment, which gets us back into it. But you could see in their body language they were gone. I was screaming at the lads, they've gone. We've got to go for it again. And Dobbin pops up with another assist and a great finish from Mendes Lang. And I did laugh because the gaffer's always telling him, make sure when the cross is coming in, you hang out the back post and nothing. He's come across the front. So we've just had a little bit of a laugh about that. But yeah, it was massive. But the manner in which it happened, if we win that 3-0, I don't think anyone's disappointed with the win, but it's not as exciting. But to go over to, I think it was 3,500 Derby fans at that end, get a few of them in trouble for jumping over the fence. But yeah, it was unbelievable, and I think you see what it means to them. And I said as we were going into the change room, that could be a massive 3 points come May.
19 games unbeaten, that was your 6th win in a row as well, but it was different to the previous games because of how it came about. I just wondered, does that say something about where you're at as a group now to sort of produce that sort of victory?
Yeah, because I think in general, the way the game was going when it was 0-0, it's about us making sure we do enough to go and win that game. We've had before in the season with Morecambe, with Fleetwood, with Shrewsbury, games where we dominated, but we didn't have that cutting edge to go and win the game. So with this game, we were creating the chances, we were getting after it, so we always felt we could win it. And it's almost as if, which it shouldn't be, their goal is what kicked us into gear. And I don't know if it's a case of sometimes that means that they sit back a little bit more and it allows you to put more pressure on them. But I felt we found another level, and be it the subs that came on were very positive as well to give us that chance to go and win the game. And it was, like I say, the feeling of getting that game back was electric.
Let's talk about you. About 6 weeks out of the squad with injury, a couple more coming off the subs bench before you finally got back in the starting lineup. How did it feel to be back out there and leading the side again from the start? It was
massive. I've always said I'm a good cheerleader. To a point, I will always support my teammates, and that's my role as a captain. I'll always support them on and off the pitch, but I prefer to be doing it on the pitch, if I'm being totally honest. And it had been a frustrating time out with the injury anyway, but obviously coming back, the team were flying. I had no arguments, nothing to say to the manager, nothing to say about the players that were holding the shirts. It was just a situation that happened, so I'd been patient, and ultimately, Cash got a little niggle against Cheltenham, which meant I saw out the last half an hour, and then came into the Bolton game. So having not played for nearly 2 months, coming into a Saturday, Tuesday was very interesting. But yeah, I felt the Bolton game was quite comfortable. They scored at the end, but that's from our mistake. And then going into the Port Vale game, I felt very comfortable as well, considering it was second game in 3 days, and they were fresh because their game was postponed. I felt good. So I'm hoping I can have an extended run at it, but that's the manager's headache to have, and we'll see what happens.
Do you think the time, whenever you have it for whatever reason, injury, whatever, do you think time out of the side makes you appreciate it all a little bit more when you get back in?
It does, but also at my age, I'm not by any means retiring myself, but there's only so many games left in my career, so I don't want to be missing 9-10 games in chunks. I want to be playing every game. That's just the way I am. That's the way I'm built. You know, some people, when they get to my age, don't trust their body. So they say, I'm all right with that role of playing a game here, missing a few, play another one. That's not me. I'd sooner be playing games week in, week out. And I've always said I'd rather retire on my feet than on my backside. So I want to play out my years of playing in the game rather than kind of fade out into the distance.
It's all about the FA Cup, and when we talked to Curtis Davies about the FA Cup, there's one thing that we immediately think of. Do you ever look back at that 2014 final and the goal that you scored and sort of think, what if?
It haunts me every night, if I'm being honest. No, it's one of those. I think someone asked me the other day, just in conversation, just a fan said, "Oh, what's your best moment in football?" I said, "Well, I can tell you my best and worst moment, the FA Cup final, 2014. Obviously, we've got James Chester here as well. That's part of that, and scored as well. But yeah, the feeling. I've always said the feeling of scoring. This is a childhood dream, you know. I said you go and play cuppies with your mates in the playground or at the park or whatever. I lived that dream. I scored in the FA Cup final, put my team 2-0 up and was captain. And you dare to dream then, you know, you're 2-0 up. It's not saying you thought it was done. And you think, I could actually lift that iconic trophy, you know. But unfortunately, it was too early. That was it. Arsenal had the quality. Arsenal getting that goal before half-time meant that they could relax going into second half. They didn't have to go gung-ho, and their quality showed in the end. I think in extra time they brought on Thomas Rosicky and Jack Wilshere. So that's kind of the level we were up against. But listen, it's still a fond memory in my mind. It's not a doom and gloom moment. But if you didn't have the what-ifs, you'd be kidding yourself, really. You know, it's not because you're playing Arsenal, you're like, oh, it's okay, we lost to Arsenal. No, we had a good chance of winning it. Unfortunately, we didn't. But yeah, I don't know if my years of making FA Cup history have got a chance to better that. But we'll give it a good go this year, and with West Ham around the corner, it's another big game to get excited about.
The extremes in emotion, I guess that's sort of what it's all about. Tuesday was, you know, a lesser example of it, but to see your face when you score and then, you know, read afterwards. I think you said you cried at full time or after the game. Are you able, though, and it sort of sounds like you're able to separate those things a little bit and sort of remember, you know, I scored at Wembley in the Cup final, which is an incredible accomplishment to have. Yeah,
I think you have to. If like that's what I'm saying. Like, how many people have scored at Wembley? Full stop. How many people have scored in the FA Cup final? So it is a big thing in terms of my CV. The side of me crying was I was doing my thing as the captain, so I was going around picking everyone up and, you know, come on, we gave it a good go, blah, blah, blah. And then it was only, as I said to you, my mindset was I looked up and Thomas Vermaelen was lifting his trophy and he hadn't played the game and he was the captain. And I was like, and something in my head just said that should have been me, and I just broke down, you know, I was gone. Luckily I had Big Huds give me a cuddle. But that was the moment that kind of sent me. It wasn't the emotion of, you know, when I'm supporting my lads, my team, I was fine. It's the emotion of that should have been me. It just hit me. And, you know, it's in terms of, with all due respect to myself at the time, I was at Hull City, so the chances of getting to FA Cup finals or League Cup finals or anything to potentially lift another trophy were slim. So yeah, it was a moment where you think that might never happen again, and unfortunately it hasn't yet, but there's still time with Derby.
You never know, especially with this club. Do the younger guys in the room, do they still care about the FA Cup, do you think?
I think, with all due respect, I think there's always been bigger fish to fry. You know, being at Derby when I came here in the Championship, our goal was always to get promoted, so usually play a second string in the FA Cup, and, you know, if we can go through a few rounds and make a good account of ourselves against potential Premier League teams, that's all good, but we always wanted to get promoted. Now we found ourselves in this situation where last year we were worried about staying up, and then this year we're worried about getting promoted again. Whereas I think when you're in the Premier League, you know, if I talk about my time at Villa, for instance, we were a team that were safe, so we never had to worry about going down. So we could potentially give it a go in the FA Cup, but we never did that well in it. So it's just a case of you take the run as it comes. You know, when I was at Hull, as much as we got to the cup final, we were the top ranked team in every round up until the final. So it is a great achievement. We're not taking ourselves away from that, but each round we were higher in the divisions or in the league than the team we played. So in this competition, if you can get lucky or get a good run, you've got a chance of making it very far. And when you look at how many Premier League teams have already gone, and then Premier League matchups that are in this round, you never know. And I think it's just daring to dream, really. I think we talk about young lads. I'm not in the playgrounds anymore, so I don't know if they're still playing cuppies or anything like that. But I'd like to think that they know how important this competition is.
As someone who's played at the highest level, Premier League, FA Cup final as well, as we talked about, do you still get excited for this sort of occasion, this sort of game? Yeah.
I think more so, as I said, when you come into the twilight days of your career, to have these, I call it a big game because it's a Premier League team. To have the chance to get out there and play against a Premier League team and test yourself still against those players, test yourselves against the Jared Bowens who I've played with, who's obviously scored a couple of important goals the weekend, Declan Rice's, Antonio's, whoever it's going to be. You like to test yourself against the best still. I don't think that leaves you. Some people, when they say, oh yeah, if you get a Premier League team in the cup, oh well, that's us out. No, have the challenge. The onus is on them to come and win it. Yeah, we know that, but we want to make an account of ourselves. A lot of times it's said it's a free hit, but I don't like the free hit phrase. I think, fair enough, the onus is on them, but you still want to win a game of football. You still want to make an account of yourself and you still want to progress. So ultimately, whilst the onus is on them, we all want to do good things. And me, myself, more than anyone, I won't have many opportunities to play against these teams again. So if I do get the chance to play, I want to make a good account of myself.